Chapter 1252. Just as the red light was nearing, Xianxia immediately raised her staff and struck it fiercely. That staff and the glowing fan collided. Two bursts of profound qi intertwined like streams of airflow intertwining with each other. The glowing fan maintained its rotation, releasing an oppressive pressure, suppressing the Tianling staff bit by bit. Xianxia only felt that the hand holding the Tianling staff had become numb under the pressure of this rotation. Clang clang, the Tianling staff and the glowing fan contended against each other, once again giving off an ear-piercing collision sound. The black qi of the Tianling staff and the red light of the glowing fan set off a huge air wave, covering the entire arena. Even the surrounding enchantment because of these two bursts of strong profound qi kept shaking. Xianxia's face turned paler. Releasing the black light ball earlier had already depleted 2/3 of her profound qi. The remaining energy was not enough to withstand the attack of the glowing fan. The Tianling staff was forced by the tremors of the glowing fan's rotation, as it kept pressing downwards. Her arm was feeling numb, unable to hold on to the Tianling staff. Xianxia knew that once the Tianling staff was forced out of her hands, she would definitely lose this match. The Tianling staff was her last resort. No matter what, she had to hang on before Yiqing Luo was hit by the black light ball. As Xianxia thought about this, the look in his eyes suddenly became fierce. Her other hand held the Tianling staff, gritting her teeth as she surged the last bit of energy in her body. I will let you see the difference between the Tianling staff and the glowing fan. The Tianling staff's body instantly surged out a current of black qi. That black qi instantly swallowed the red light of the glowing fan. That high-speed rotating glowing fan, one round after another, gradually became smaller. Xianxia's lips curled into a complacent smile, as she heaved a sigh of relief and wanted to show off to Yiqing Luo. A few black light balls suddenly flashed past her eyes. Her smile immediately froze on her lips. Her body had reflexively retracted the staff and placed it on her vital point. Bam! It was another sound of weapons clashing, and immediately the profound qi wave on the arena, which had not yet subsided, rolled up once again. Not knowing when Yiqing Luo was already standing in front of Xianxia, the golden hairpin in her hand was piercing towards Xianxia's neck. As for Xianxia, he used his sky silk staff to block the golden hairpin. The golden hairpin was just an ordinary item. Under the black gas of the Tianling staff, it immediately exploded. That golden hairpin, Xianxia's expression changed drastically, and he raised his hand to touch his hair. Indeed, it was her golden hairpin. Without the golden hairpin holding it in place, Xianxia's long hair fell down. A few of her hair accessories fell to the ground with her intense movements. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's figure suddenly disappeared in front of Xianxia. Yiqing Luo. Xianxia gritted his teeth as he touched his long hair, his eyes filled with intense hatred. Whoosh, something seemed to brush past his cheek. There was a sharp pain. The sound of something tearing through the air brushed past his ears. It was Yiqing Luo's glower flame fan. Earlier he had anxiously used the Skymas staff to block Yiqing Luo's sneak attack. However, he had neglected the glowing flame fan. Xianxia hurriedly raised his sky silk staff, and was about to break the glowing flame fan. Only to see that glowing flame fan revolved around her, and with a whoosh whoosh whoosh, it spun towards the corner of the arena. Right in front of her, those black light balls, because of Yiqing Luo's approach earlier, had all crashed to the side of her feet. Boom boom boom, bam, the arena collapsed, smoke and dust filled the air. The entire arena could no longer be seen clearly. Chapter 1253. Tiskei, this Xianxia has reaped what she sowed. Why did she have to use such a disgusting trick? Now it has landed on her. The light ball that she created hit herself. This is the first time I've seen such a situation. That light ball's power is so strong that it can destroy the entire arena. Don't tell me Xianxia was smashed to death by her own light ball? The crowd was discussing in a low voice. Although the voices were soft, but it couldn't be compared to the number of people. The more they spoke, the louder the laughter became. Smoke and dust filled the arena. That light ball didn't explode on Yiqing Luo. One after another, the black light ball was filled with energy as it attacked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. This time Yiqing Luo didn't take any evasive action. She raised her slender wrist up high, and the spinning glowing flame fan landed steadily in her palm. Her fingertips moved and the glower flame fan swept up a hurricane. She faced it head-on and rushed towards those light balls. Blindly evading was not a solution. These balls of light would pursue her relentlessly until they landed on her body. If she chased after this group of black light balls for a long time, even if it was her energy would be depleted. After all, she was a human and not a god. So Yiqing Luo had roughly understood from her probing earlier. These black light balls were chasing after her aura. She used her profound energy to break these black light balls. The light balls collided with her aura. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as the glower flame fan in her hands danced continuously. The crowd only saw a red figure like lightning, shuttling through 20 over light balls. But moments later, those light balls collided with the profound chi from the glower flame fan, and after a loud explosion, it vanished into thin air. The arena gradually returned to its tranquility. Only the profound energy's airwave swept up the dust on the ground as it filled the arena. Yiqing Luo kept her glower flame fan and slowly looked towards Xianxian's direction. After the dust dispersed, Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. She saw Xianxian, who was originally engulfed by the black light ball, standing on the same spot. Her face was filled with horror and fear, but there was no sign of injury on her body. The Tianling staff in her hand was flickering, shining with a dark and mysterious black glow. This Tianling staff actually released a spirit formation to protect Xianxian. As expected of a legendary weapon, it even had the consciousness to protect its owner. When he saw Yiqing Luo clearly, Xianxian then realized that he had not exploded into pieces because of the black ball of light. His heart was filled with shock and fear, but at this moment he relaxed. His body began to tremble uncontrollably. When the spectators saw that Xianxian was protected by the sky silk staff, they all fell into a deathly silence. The offensive power of the Tianling staff was beyond their imagination. He did not expect the Tianling staff to have the consciousness to protect its master. To Yiqing Luo, this was extremely unfair. Although the rules did not restrict the weapons used by the contestants. However, even if Xianxian won today's match, it would not be glorious. One must know that Yiqing Luo was someone who possessed a divine relic. Until now, Yiqing Luo had not used the power of the divine relic. A legendary weapon was already so heaven-defying. If Yiqing Luo were to use the power of the divine relic, wouldn't it be even more heaven-defying? Qian's sister Xianxian. Below the stage, Nangong Lin stood up and pointed at Xianxian with a trembling finger. Your hair. Hair? Xianxian recalled the sound she heard when the glower flame fan brushed past her cheek. Her face instantly turned pale. Chapter 1254. Nothing. Nothing at all. There were only a few strands of black hair wrapped around her palm. Her heart suddenly stopped beating and the blood in her body seemed to have solidified. Trembling hands, she touched upwards. Her fine black hair had been cut off and now it was only the length of her ears. It was Yiqing Luo. It was Yiqing Luo who pulled out the golden hairpin that fixed her hair. It was Yiqing Luo who took the opportunity to use the glower flame fan to cut off her hair. Abominable Yiqing Luo. How dare she touch her hair? Xianxian was so angry that her whole body was trembling, her eyes were red and tears were welling up in her eyes. When had she ever suffered such humiliation? To a woman, hair was more important than her life. Yet it was cut off so easily by Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo. I want to kill you. I want to kill you. Xianxian's eyes were scarlet red as she raised her Tianling staff high and the condensed lightning struck towards Yiqing Luo. The furious Xianxian's lightning was even more violent than before. Yiqing Luo immediately dodged and furrowed her brows while looking at her, her lips curled into a sneer of ridicule. Student Z, you're really silly using the Tianling staff's ability without restraint. Aren't you afraid that your profound qi will dry up and you'll die? Her words had just ended when Yiqing Luo's footsteps extended and her figure rapidly turned into a red shadow as she approached Xianxian. How could Xianxian listen to Yiqing Luo's words now? Yiqing Luo had ruined the long hair which she was most proud of as a lady, causing her to completely become the joke of the West continent. How could she still calm down? The staff's attacks were getting fiercer and fiercer. Xianxian's body was also gradually retreating, trying to widen the distance between her and Yiqing Luo. But how could Xianxian's speed compare to Yiqing Luo's? Moreover, Xianxia couldn't catch Yiqing Luo's movements at all. In just a short moment, Yiqing Luo was already behind Xianxia. A cold smile bloomed on her lips. Your speed is too slow. The cold and bewitching voice made Xianxia's back turn cold as goosebumps appeared all over her body. Immediately after, she felt an ice-cold object pressed against her skin. Xianxia's body stiffened and he stopped attacking with his Tianling staff. Do you still want to continue? Yiqing Luo sneered. I admit. Xianxia seemed to be afraid. Her delicate body slightly trembled and her hands, which were holding onto the sky silk staff, curled up tightly. Just as he was about to say the word, lose. Xianxia's expression changed abruptly, and he used his elbow to push back. Taking the opportunity when Yiqing Luo was evading, he turned his head around and raised his sky-mist scepter, directly striking down fiercely. Yiqing Luo had not expected that Xianxia would take the opportunity to counterattack. Her eyes turned cold and she narrowed her eyes. Her body instinctively took precautions. With a light tap of his feet, he swiftly retreated. The devouring flame fan in his hand opened up, blocking the attack of the Tianling staff. Bye-bye. The sound of weapons colliding rang out and both sides felt their wrists go numb. Crack. There was another explosion. His voice clearly spread throughout the entire West Wave Square. It was the sound of a weapon breaking. The onlookers were in an uproar. They squeezed their way to the arena, wanting to see whose weapon had been broken. The red light and the black chi were tightly intertwined. A lady in red and a lady in white looked at each other, suppressing a strong murderous intent. After Xianxia heard that explosion, the expression on his face instantly turned joyous. Chapter 1255. The glower flame fan was broken. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted slightly. His eyes reflected the cracked gourd flame fan. Subconsciously, she wanted to keep the glower flame fan. How would Xianxia let her off so easily? Let go of the glower flame fan. You destroyed my most precious hair. I will also destroy your most precious weapon. Xianxia gritted her teeth sinisterly, as she injected all her profound energy into the Tianling staff. Black chi appeared. Crack. The strong pressure from the Tianling staff directly broke the glower flame fan. The enchanting glower flame fan broke into two. The entire West Lake Square was silent. The crowd's vision was fixed on the both of them. The sound of the glower flame fan falling onto the stage was exceptionally clear. Yiqing Luo, go to hell. Xianxia's beautiful eyes turned cold as she arrogantly raised her chin, as her lips curled into a complacent smile. She raised the Tianling staff up high, as she sent the last burst of profound chi towards Yiqing Luo's head. Bam! A loud sound was heard as a petite figure was flung into the air. A staff suffused with black chi as it tumbled a few times in the air as it landed on the ground. A petite figure fell heavily on the side of the staff. That's right, on the ground. On the ground outside the stage. It was Yiqing Luo. The moment Xianxia held the Tianling staff tightly and smashed it towards her, Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed coldly. She raised her leg and directly kicked Xianxia's abdomen. Xianxian. Vice Group Leader. A group of people from the Death God mercenary group immediately stood up, as they rushed towards Xianxia's direction. Nangong Lin helped Xianxia up as she was so distressed that she was about to cry. Sister Xianxia, are you all right? Are you all right? Xianxia was still in a daze. Her internal organs were in extreme pain as though they were about to be torn apart. Nangong Lin saw Xianxia's pale face as she stared furiously at Yiqing Luo as she scolded, Yiqing Luo, you slut. It's just a competition, is there a need to be so ruthless? If it wasn't for my sister Xianxia's power, she would have been killed by you on the stage. In the arena, the girl who stood alone in the same spot with her head lowered was silent. The surrounding waves of air swirled around her hair, but they couldn't sweep away the icy aura around her body. Don't think that just because you beat my big sister Xianxia secretly, you've really won. Just you wait. Seeing that she didn't speak, Nangong Lin's mouth was even more unforgiving. Nangong Firen grabbed his wrist tightly. Nangong Firen was about to tell Nangong Lin to shut up. All of a sudden, a cold gaze swept over. It actually caused them to feel cold air invading their bodies, a chill rising up from the bottom of their feet. His gaze was as cold as a sharp knife, filled with killing intent. He did not conceal his killing intent at all. Even the onlookers who were used to seeing killing couldn't help but shudder when they saw this gaze. You. Nangong Lin was so scared that her legs went soft and she fell to the ground. A pair of stubborn eyes filled with disgust stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. After a long while he finally found his voice. What do you want to do? This is the venue of the inter-class competition. What do you want to do to us? Yiqing Luo laughed softly. That laughter was ethereal and pleasing to the ears. But it was mixed with an eerie chill as though it was a voice from hell. The smile at the corner of her lips was so beautiful that it could topple cities. Xianxia, a student from the class of gods, Death God Mercenary Group's vice group leader, Sky Profound 7th grade cultivator. Chapter 1256. In the interclass competition you used the Tianling staff, but you were still unable to defeat me, a 4th grade Earth Profound practitioner who only used the devouring flame fan. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and smiled coldly. Xianxia, you've really thrown the face of the class of gods. You. Cough 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 cough. Xianxia was unable to restrain his anger as he propped himself up and pointed at Yiqing Luo with the intention to retaliate. Her body was in so much pain that she couldn't make such an intense move. Yiqing Luo smiled and her smile became even more joyful. Why? Not satisfied? If you're not convinced, then you'd better hold it in too. She then looked at Elder Yun Duan. Elder Yun Duan, please announce the results of the competition. Yun Duan, who was completely stunned by the sudden change in the arena, only reacted after Yiqing Luo's reminder. He coughed dryly. This year's interclass competition has ended successfully. Devil class's student Yiqing Luo has challenged the overseeing main god class's student Xianxia. Student Xianxia has fallen out of the arena stage and has been eliminated. Devil class students have obtained the final victory. No. Xianxia's body trembled as she stretched out her arms towards the clouds. However, her attempts to stop him were futile. She could only watch with her own eyes as the vice president of the main courtyard passed the medal which represented the ultimate champion to Yiqing Luo's hands. Xianxia could even clearly see. The moment Yiqing Luo received the medal, she shot a glance at her. Ridicule. There was also a look of mockery. The rage in Xianxia's chest grew more and more vigorous. He forced out a mouthful of blood from his heart. Nangong Lin screamed in panic, and the doctor in the medical hall immediately carried Xianxia away. Before long, the area below the arena regained its tranquility. The crowd looked at Yiqing Luo. Let Xianxia leave just like that? Could it be that breaking the gourd flame fan didn't matter? How could she still smile? Yifeng, you had the same thought. How important was the glower flame fan to Yiqing Luo? Yifeng Yu was well aware of this. But now the glowing flame fan had actually been broken. But big sister let Xianxia go. Just as everyone was extremely puzzled, simply unable to see through Yiqing Luo's thoughts. Just as the vice president of the main courtyard was talking loudly, praising Yiqing Luo to the point that she was unrivaled in the heavens. Yiqing Luo squatted down without a word and picked up a broken glower flame fan. Just now it was broken by the attack of the Tianling staff, and the gourd flame fan was broken into 2 pieces. One was by his feet and the other had been swept away by the shockwave. Due to the previous duel, the entire arena was littered with rubble and rocks. As far as the eye could see, there was no trace of the glowing flame fan. After the glower flame fan was broken, the spiritual chi on it also disappeared at that moment and the connection with Yiqing Luo was also cut off. Yiqing Luo used her bare hands to break apart the pieces of stone and found the other section of the glower flame fan. The main courtyard's vice president wasn't infuriated by Yiqing Luo's rudeness. Instead he looked at the young lady who was squatting by his feet, rummaging through the stones in admiration. He didn't say anything to stop them, nor did he ask the others to help. He calmly announced the end of the competition and returned to his seat. The competition had ended and the spectators should have left. However, not a single person moved their feet. They all looked at the young lady who was constantly rummaging through the arena. That slender little hand was as fair as congealed fat, so delicate that it would turn red if she pinched it. But she kept on rummaging through those stones which were branded on her hands. The sharp stones pricked her hand and fresh blood flowed out, but she didn't care about it at all. Everyone knew what she was looking for, her exclusive weapon. Chapter 1257. In the hearts of the crowd, there was a surge of surging tide, driving them to do something. But they didn't move. They were all cultivators and had their own weapons. They understood Yiqing Luo's feelings very well. Breaking a cultivator's life weapon was equivalent to breaking the cultivator's life. Her own life weapon was broken in her own hands. As the owner of her life weapon, she wanted to find her own weapon. Not to rely on anyone. The onlookers recalled Nangong Lin's words just now. In their hearts they started to feel disgusted with Zhi Qianqian, the #1 beauty in the Heavenly Academy's class of God. It was just a competition. Zhi Qianqian had been overbearing and even used the Tianling staff to defeat Yiqing Luo. Even breaking Yiqing Luo's life weapon. The one who went overboard. It was Zhi Qianqian. The crowd looked at her as she rummaged through the stones. Her fair hands were stained with blood and their eyes were filled with admiration. Even those who didn't have a good impression of Yiqing Luo had a feeling of empathy, and the way they looked at Yiqing Luo became much gentler. All these Yiqing Luo had no time to care and didn't want to bother. Her eyes were red as she rummaged through every corner of the stones. The profound qi in her hands slapped away the broken stones, not letting go of any gap. Glower flame fan. She had always thought that the glower flame fan was protecting her. But it was broken in her hands. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips tightly and increased the speed of her hands. One hand was about to flip the stone in front of her. Before she could reach over, a pair of long slender legs appeared in front of her eyes, slightly dazzling. Yiqing Luo looked up blankly and met with a pair of angry peach blossom eyes. He stretched out a hand towards her, his handsome face was gloomy. Get up. Ugh. Yiqing Luo's voice stopped abruptly before she could say the word, profound. Both her hands were covered by 2 warm palms. Her body felt light and she was forcefully pulled up. So sorry. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes were slightly moist. The man's hand gently touched the wound on her hand, bringing a cool touch. The pain gradually disappeared from the places that he had touched. Do you know what you did wrong? He lowered his voice, which was deep and magnetic. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped even lower as she bit her lower lip lightly. I didn't take good care of the glower flame fan, that's your fault. Wrong, the man interrupted her and said coldly. Come back with me. This was the first time Zhou Xian had used such a tone and expression to talk to her. Yiqing Luo's eyes reddened as an indescribable feeling of tears welling up in her eyes. She was not a woman who liked to cry. To be more precise, she never shed a single tear. Even if it was hard and tiring, even if they were facing death, she would never cry. Tears were the symbol of the weak. But, at this moment when the glowing flame fan was broken, her heart instantly felt empty. That feeling of emptiness made her feel complicated. And Zhou Xian's attitude made the complicated feelings in her heart magnified even more. Suddenly he had an urge to cry. Zhou Xian quietly stared at Yiqing Luo for some time. Although Yiqing Luo's head was lowered, but that hair which was blown by the wind revealed that pair of reddened eyes. His heart felt as if it was stabbed by a needle. Suddenly something softened. Chapter 1258. Yiqing Luo then reacted. They were still on the stage and there were thousands of pairs of eyes watching her. The current Zhou Xian was supreme. Just now she had almost called out his name in front of everyone. She restrained the emotions in her eyes and looked at Zhou Xian. I'll look for you later, I want to find the glower flame fan. Saying that, she lowered her eyes and stared at the half of the glower flame fan in her hand. Her voice was very soft. If I can't find the other part of the glower flame fan, I can't be at ease. The glower flame fan that had protected her and accompanied her for such a long time. Even if the glower flame fan was broken, she had to keep the glower flame fan by her side. Zhou Xian didn't speak for a long time. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips. Her emotions were complicated. But she still stubbornly didn't give up her decision. After some time, Zhou Xian raised his hand and flicked Yiqing Luo's forehead. Aren't you looking for it? Why are you still in a daze? Yiqing Luo suddenly raised her head and her lips curled into a smile. She squatted down and was about to continue rummaging through the stones. But her wrist was grabbed by Zhou Xian again. His gaze glanced at her hands, his voice was slightly cold. Trying to make me angry? Yiqing Luo was stunned, her long curly lashes fluttered lightly. Suddenly the smile on her lips deepened. She didn't say a word, only smiling and shaking her head. So, Zhou Xian was angry not because she broke the glower flame fan, but because she let herself get hurt in front of him. So he disregarded his status as Supreme Emo and rushed to the stage to stop her self-harm, and took the opportunity to apply ointment on his palm. This man. No matter when, he was able to make her heart beat faster. She was afraid that she would really fall into his hands for the rest of her life. Seeing that Yiqing Luo really didn't intend to use her bare hands to flip the stones, Zhou Xian then restrained the gloomy expression on his face. He let go of Yiqing Luo's wrist and waved his sleeve. A majestic, profound energy swept up a hurricane, turning the rubble of the entire arena into a tornado. In that floating gravel, Yiqing Luo saw an indistinct red glow. Her eyes lit up as she tugged Zhou Xian's sleeve. After their eyes met, she leaped toward the red light. At the same time, Zhou Xian slowed down the release of his profound energy, and the strength of the hurricane subsequently reduced. Yiqing Luo got closer to that red light, and as expected, it was that half of the glower flame fan. She extended her hand and held the glowing flame fan in her palm. Following that, she turned around and returned to Zhou Xian's side. Logically speaking, Zhou Xian's majestic dark force was so powerful that even the masters and elders present would feel pressured if they were to approach him. How would an ordinary student dare to go near the hurricane that was stirred up by the profound energy? However, the cooperation between the two of them seemed to have been through a long period of training. Zhou Xian's control over his strength was not the slightest bit off. Yiqing Luo's approaching distance and the timing of her stretching out her hand to grab the glower flame fan were exactly the same. Everyone looked at the two of them with a hint of ambiguity and suspicion. "Let's go." Zhou Xian's gaze swept across the surroundings as he spoke indifferently. Yiqing Luo replied softly and followed behind Zhou Xian as the both of them walked down the stage. The onlookers were still staring at them suspiciously. Were they not going to explain? Wasn't he going to explain himself? Could it be that they had tacitly agreed to it? But these two obviously had no intention to explain. One in front and one behind, they directly walked past the high profound Class 2's waiting area. Chapter 1259. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted as her heart suddenly stopped. She subconsciously turned her head to look at the vice president. Not knowing when, the vice president was already standing behind her as a pair of sharp eyes wandered between her and Zhou Xian. "Senior, you're the elder of the headquarters. Dino. Your every action represents the actions of the headquarters." Zhou Xian's actions had already made the crowd speculate. If Zhou Xian was an old man with white hair and brows, the crowd wouldn't let their imagination run wild. But unfortunately, Zhou Xian was a young man, and he was so good-looking that he was ranked third in the West Continent's handsome man chart. For such a young and handsome man to take care of such a young and beautiful girl, it was unimaginable. How could it not cause a misunderstanding? The vice president of the headquarters didn't hate Yiqing Luo, but that didn't mean that he could accept an elder of the headquarters having an ambiguous relationship with a student. This would affect the image of the headquarters. Vice President. Zhou Xian glanced at the vice president indifferently before his vision shifted to Yiqing Luo as he smiled elegantly. "She is my proudest student." The crowd nodded as though they were enlightened. They had also heard that the elders sent to the Heavenly Academy were directly chosen to teach in the Devil class. With the guidance of the elders from the headquarters, it was no wonder that Yiqing Luo improved so quickly. Yiqing Luo's innate talent was so strong. If they were Yiqing Luo's teachers, they would also be willing to be so gentle to her. Thinking in this way, the crowd calmed down. Earlier when they saw Senior Mo and Yiqing Luo, it was so intimate. Now looking at Senior Mo and Yiqing Luo again, they only felt that their teacher and student relationship was extremely strong. The vice president took a look at the both of them and didn't continue asking. He only waved his hand and said calmly, "Bring her to the medical hall and bandage her wound. Tonight we will return to the Heavenly Academy, and after resting for 2 days, we will select 10 students from the Devil class to report to the class of gods." This was the reward for defeating the overseer. 10 students could be chosen from the class that won first place to study in the class of gods for a month. Yiqing Luo thanked the vice president. Without exchanging any conventional greetings, she bid farewell and left. West Continent Public Square Town, Restaurant Private Room. The table was filled with delicacies, but no one touched it. Yiqing Luo lowered her head as she looked at the broken glower flame fan in her palm, not in the mood to eat. Little Luo, eat something first. Dmo Xian saw her absent-minded look and snatched the gourd flame fan from her hands, putting it aside. Today's match has exhausted so much energy. If you don't eat something, your body won't be able to take it. Yiqing Luo shook her head, her delicate fists tightly curled up. I have no appetite. Seeing this section of the gourd flame fan on the dining table, Yiqing Luo's heart was getting more and more vexed. Her mind recalled the scene when Dmo Xian passed the glower flame fan to her. His long and narrow eyes were curved, and his smile was devilishly charming. He said, "This is a betrothal gift for her." Today she had broken the betrothal gift that Dmo Xian had personally given to her into two. Dmo Xian remained silent for a moment as he adjusted his sitting posture and turned around to look at Yiqing Luo. His slender hand held her small hand. The other hand lifted her lower jaw, forcing her gaze to meet his. In the end, why did you let Xianxia off? Dmo Xian gently caressed her skin as he asked in a warm voice. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Her eyelashes were like butterfly wings, long and thick, but it was unable to conceal the glint of hatred in her eyes. Chapter 1260. The vengeful her. How could she let off Xianxia, who destroyed the glower flame fan so easily? But at that time Yiqing Luo did not take any extreme actions. She even allowed Xianxia to be carried away by the doctor in the medical hall to receive treatment. Yiqing Luo slowly lowered her gaze. Her eyes squinted, revealing a strong murderous intent. That is the competition venue. If I kill her on the spot, not only will I implicate myself but also the entire devil class and the World Mercenary Group. The current devil class and the World Mercenary Group. Although their reputations had spread far and wide. Speaking of which, she was the only one who was able to intimidate everyone with her strength. Once she dismembered Xianxia on the spot. Not only the Z family would not let her off. Even the academy would not be able to account for it. Devil classes students needed a place like the academy to learn and grow. She could not implicate the devil class and implicate everyone for her own selfish desires. She could not take revenge on the spot, but she would use her own methods to let Xianxia live. More painful than death. What Xianxia was proud of was just her title as a student in the class of gods. Was just her reputation as the #1 beauty. Was just her Sky Mist staff's power. Then she would destroy what Xianxia was proud of bit by bit. This match, Xianxia's loss, was just the beginning. She would make Xianxia become the joke of the entire West Continent and even the entire Nirvana realm. Yiqing Luo's gaze gradually fell onto the broken glower flame fan. Her slender fingers gently caressed the fan handle as her brows turned soft. Moreover, the glower flame fan did not hesitate to sacrifice itself in order to protect my victory. I don't want the glower flame fan to sacrifice itself in vain. Yes, in order to protect you, the glower flame fan sacrificed itself. Dmo Xian's warm palm had already floated onto her hair. His large palm fixed the back of her head. He said in a low voice, "So, all the more for the glower flame fan, at least don't let yourself fall." Yiqing Luo raised her eyes in a daze, looking at Dmo Xian's peerless face. That pair of glistening, gentle peach blossom eyes seemed to sink into the heart of a warm current. Furthermore, Dmo Xian dragged out the last syllable. His long and narrow eyes outlined a demonic curve. Who told you that once the glower flame fan is broken, it is completely broken? In Yiqing Luo's mind, there seemed to be a white light that suddenly exploded. Her charming eyes lit up as she speedily grabbed Dmo Xian's wrist. What did you just say? The devouring flame fan was broken, but was it not completely broken? In other words, Dmo Xian had a way to restore the glower flame fan? Before I answer your question, you have to answer mine seriously first. Dmo Xian's eyes gleamed slightly. His 5 fingers suddenly exerted strength and pulled Yiqing Luo into his embrace. Her face was pressed against his chest. The scorching heat also scalded her face. Yiqing Luo's little hand clutched tightly onto the lapel in front of his chest as she replied anxiously, "Ask, I will answer seriously." Dmo Xian's attitude meant that he definitely had a way to reconstruct the glower flame fan. Why do you care so much about the ghastly flame fan? A low and hoarse voice like mellow wine lingered beside his eardrums. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt her whole body go limp. Her little hand instinctively clutched his lapel even tighter. Dmo Xian's voice was even lower, the slightly raised ending syllable, once again made Yiqing Luo's body go limp. Chapter 1261. Just because of this? Zhou Xian raised his eyebrows as he teased. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she loosened her grip on his clothes. She understood the meaning behind Zhou Xian's question. Her face flushed red instantly. If you don't answer seriously, you won't get the answer to the question you want to know. Zhou Xian gave a low laugh. This girl was so adorable that he couldn't wait to rub her into his body. Yiqing Luo buried her head in his arms and dawdled for a long time. After a long time she muttered in a low voice. She couldn't understand what she was talking about. Zhou Xian didn't intend to let her fool him. His slender fingers lifted Yiqing Luo's chin in a domineering and overbearing manner. Under the reflection of her pupils, her rosy red lips curled into a devilish smile. I can't hear you. A low husky magnetic male voice knocked into her eardrum. The warm breath fell on her skin and made her feel ticklish. Yiqing Luo blushed furiously as she stared at Zhou Xian angrily. She exerted force and sat on Zhou Xian's body. Her little hand propped on his chest as she put on a fierce look like a queen and said fiendishly, "The glower flame fan is the gift you gave me. You said it was a betrothal gift." After that she stared at the man's rising arc and gritted her teeth as she lowered her head and bit hard on his lips, growling angrily, "Are you satisfied now?" Hiss. Zhou Xian was in pain as he held her slender waist tightly with one hand and stroked his lips which were bitten. He couldn't help but chuckle. "Little wild cat," Yiqing Luo snorted coldly, "you deserve to be bitten to death. What a shameless beast. Flirting with her at the slightest disagreement. And it was the kind of flirting that made her blush. Biting him was already considered as her mouth being merciful. Zhou Xian saw her blushing face and knew that if he continued to tease her, the little wild cat would explode. He restrained his teasing thoughts and said gently, "Satisfied, satisfied, little wild cat makes me so satisfied, so I decided to tell you the method to restore the glower flame fan." When Yiqing Luo heard that, her expression immediately turned serious as she looked at him solemnly, waiting for his answer. Zhou Xian held her little hand, brought it to his lips and gently kissed it, whispering, "Do you still remember the attributes of the glower flame fan?" Attributes? Yiqing Luo recalled everything in her mind. It seemed like, when Zhou Xian gave her the glower flame fan, Old Man Tsong had said, "The ghastly flame fan is an attribute that can grow." There was only one ghastly flame fan in the world, and it was not as precious as the Tianling staff. It was not a legendary weapon. However, what made people envious was the glowing flame fan's ability to grow. The glowing flame fan could be upgraded according to the user's abilities. Growth attribute. What does it have to do with repairing the broken glower flame fan? Yiqing Luo asked in puzzlement. Zhou Xian pinched her forehead lightly. Because it is an attribute that can grow, the breaking of the ghastly flame fan to the ghastly flame fan is not destruction but a new beginning. The more Yiqing Luo listened, the more confused she became. Seeing Yiqing Luo's bewildered look, Zhou Xian sighed and changed his way of explaining. "Before the ghastly flame fan broke, although it was used by you, but to the ghastly flame fan, you are not its real owner. The ghastly flame fan can be restored, but I need something from you." Hearing this, Yiqing Luo linked the words before and after, and immediately understood the meaning behind Zhou Xian's words. Chapter 1262. To restore the glower flame fan, it required a drop of Yiqing Luo's heart blood and her heart bone. Using these two things as raw materials, the armament master would recast the glower flame fan. It would definitely be able to restore the glower flame fan and make the connection between the glower flame fan and Yiqing Luo stronger. I will use profound energy to extract the heart blood and heart bone for you. Zhou Xian looked at the young lady in front of him, his eyes filled with determination as he gently caressed her cheek. Yiqing Luo nodded, "But, armament master, I don't know any armament master." If it was refining pills, she could still volunteer. But refining armaments? She didn't seem to have heard of anyone among the people she knew who studied weapon forging. Moreover, the glower flame fan could grow and was second only to the legendary grade weapon. Ordinary armament masters had no way to restore it. At least, the armament master's grade had to reach armament sect and above. Armament masters and alchemists were similar. From low to high, the order was armament slave, armament apprentice, armament master, armament grandmaster, armament sect, armament emperor, armament immortal, armament god. The only difference was armament sect level armament master was even more difficult than alchemist level alchemist. The success rate of armament refining was even more difficult than alchemist level. Even if Yiqing Luo knew some armament masters, but there was absolutely no one who could reach armament sect level. The Imperial Palace has one. Since Zhou Xian said this method, naturally he knew some armament sect armament masters. He cupped Yiqing Luo's face with both hands as he closed the distance between them, but he paused for a moment and then said with a somewhat cautious tone, the equipment forger was a woman. Yiqing Luo's joyous expression instantly froze on her lips. Lady? Why were there so many ladies in the Imperial Palace? She frowned slightly as an inexplicable feeling of resistance arose in her heart. An image of Feng Ling holding onto Zhou Xian's arm appeared in her mind, occupying her position. Suddenly it flashed and the scene of Zhou Xian and Feng Ling getting married appeared in the illusion. Her hands which were placed on Zhou Xian's shoulders suddenly pinched hard as she snorted, "Don't look for her. Isn't it just a armament sect level armament master? We can slowly look for her. She's not the only armament sect level armament master in this world." But is there a but? Yiqing Luo's eyes opened wide. She hadn't forgotten that the reason why Zhou Xian called Feng Ling over from the Imperial Palace was to break the enchantment which the dark forces had conjured. Now because of the restoration of the glower flame fan, if there was a second wind chime, she would not be able to control herself and strangle Zhou Xian to death. Zhou Xian's gaze passed over her shoulder and fixed on a certain spot, but she's already here. Yiqing Luo froze. Loosening her grip on Zhou Xian's clothes, she followed his line of sight and looked behind her. Sure enough, a woman in a light blue dress with long sleeves drifting in the wind slowly walked over with a faint smile on her face. Standing in front of the both of them, the woman knelt down on one knee and paid her respects to Zhou Xian. This subordinate pays her respects to Sir Overlord. She paused and a teasing look flashed across her eyes. Greetings, mistress of the Imperial Palace. A mistress? Yiqing Luo held her breath as she turned her head to look at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian caressed her hair and waved his hand. Bayon, get up first. The woman stood up and walked to the seat opposite Zhou Xian as she sat down. A pair of crafty and teasing eyes sized Yiqing Luo up from head to toe. The relationship between Sir Overlord and Mistress of the Imperial Palace is really good, but let's settle the proper business first. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her cheeks flushed red instantly. Chapter 1263. In this era, this kind of posture could be considered as immoral. Even between husband and wife, they didn't dare to do such an action in such a noisy place like the restaurant. Yiqing Luo's only thought now was to dig a hole in the ground and disappear in front of these two people's eyes. In front of Zhou Xian's subordinates, she sat on Zhou Xian's thighs and even pestered him to be jealous. How would she have the face to meet the other people in the Imperial Palace in future? Yiqing Luo wanted to cry but no tears came out. It was all that crazy beast's fault. When he flirted with her, he didn't even tell her in advance that there would be other people coming. Yiqing Luo raised her fist and wanted to punch Zhou Xian. But when he remembered that there was a beautiful woman looking at the two of them with a smile on her face, he couldn't help it. She suppressed her anger and retracted her hand. She stood up and speedily returned to her seat. Lil Luo, ha ha ha. Zhou Xian was tickled by her actions as he laughed out loud. That peerless face because of that smile looked even more handsome. Yiqing Luo was furious as she stared at him fiercely. Shameless beast, just you wait. Now that your subordinate is here, I will give you face. Later your subordinate will leave. I'll peel your skin off in minutes. Zhou Xian raised his brows as his eyes narrowed. All right, I will wait for you. The two of them exchanged flirtatious glances, which made the beautiful lady sitting by the side unable to restrain her laughter. She crossed her arms leisurely as she leaned back on the chair, looking at Zhou Xian in ridicule. Noticing the lady's gaze, Yiqing Luo was really tempted. Damn it. There was probably no chance for her to establish her prestige in the Imperial Palace in future. The beautiful lady's beautiful eyes were filled with smiles as she looked at Yiqing Luo's direction and spoke respectfully. I am Tang Beiyuan, the Imperial Palace's armament refining hall master and also the Overlord's exclusive armament master. Saying that, she raised her brows with some interest. But what the Imperial Palace's mistress is worried about will absolutely not happen. Although I am the Overlord's exclusive armament master, but my life belongs to another man. Yiqing Luo heard that and knew that this lady was ridiculing what she said to Zhou Xian earlier. But Yiqing Luo didn't hear any bit of disgust or displeasure. Tang Biyuan's teasing was kind. Tang Biyuan was not as well behaved as Wind in front of Zhou Xian. This was enough to prove that Tang Biyuan and Zhou Xian's relationship was rather harmonious. Tang Biyuan had just said that her life belonged to another man. This sentence, "You're married?" Such a young and outstanding woman, how could she have gotten married so early? Tang Biyuan shook her head with a bitter smile. "We're not married yet, but I don't think I'll have to wait too long." She didn't even have the confidence to say the last word, maybe. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. It was obvious that Tang Biyuan was genuinely in love with her fiancé. As for the reason why they didn't get married, Yiqing Luo didn't ask too much. After all, this was only the first time they had met. One thing was certain. Just as Tang Biyuan had said, what she was worried about would never happen. "I'm sorry." Yiqing Luo opened her mouth gently, apologizing for her action of assuming that Tang Biyuan was the second Feng Ling before they had even met. Chapter 1264. Subdue. Tang Biyuan's choice of words seemed a little. "This is the first time I've seen such an overlord." Tang Biyuan propped her chin as her beautiful eyes stared at Zhou Xian's face. The current overlord finally looks like a human. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at Zhou Xian. Looks like a human? What kind of evaluation was that? Could it be Zhou Xian didn't look like a human in the past? Yiqing Luo recalled her past self, living like a machine that exhausted all its energy for the secluded Yi family. She didn't look like a human at that time. Could it be that Zhou Xian was the same as her in the past? Yiqing Luo felt like laughing as she imagined the past Zhou Xian. Biyun. Zhou Xian berated Tang Biyuan's name, but his tone didn't have any signs of majesty. He looked at Yiqing Luo, who was still laughing, as one hand slid under the table towards Yiqing Luo's direction. His slender fingers silently covered Yiqing Luo's legs. Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffened as a short cry came out from her mouth. Tang Biyuan looked at her in puzzlement. "What's the matter?" "No, nothing." Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled slightly as she shook her head with a blushing face. His hand actually. Using the table as a cover, his fingers gently and slowly brushed past her legs. From time to time it brushed past her thighs. For the convenience of the competition, Yiqing Luo had designed the uniform to be extremely tight. The trousers below the skirt were almost stuck to her skin. Zhou Xian's hand swept past her tight trousers, which was equivalent to touching the skin on her legs. That layer of trousers made her feel even more itchy. "Mistress, why is your face so red?" Tang Biyuan saw that Yiqing Luo didn't seem to be fine and immediately looked at Zhou Xian. "Overlord, is mistress feeling unwell?" Zhou Xian lifted the teacup elegantly and drank a mouthful of tea. "She's thin-skinned and is regretting after you saw her fierce look earlier." Tang Biyuan nodded her head as she retracted her worried gaze. "Mistress, don't worry, I won't tell anyone else in the Imperial Palace about today's matter." Yiqing Luo gave a few dry laughs as her body tensed up. She gave a dry laugh as she turned her head and gave Zhou Xian a warning stare. Where did this beast learn to flirt with girls? Unexpectedly, he actually did such a thing to her under the table. The more she stared, the more she stared. The hand on her thigh became more and more wanton. Furthermore, it faintly brushed past the inside of her great moon retreat, causing her to tremble even more violently. What made Yiqing Luo unable to balance was the Emperor Avian calmly sipped its tea. Yiqing Luo's little face was burning as she saw Zhou Xian ignoring her gaze. She clenched her teeth and simply picked up the teacup as her other hand slid under the table without anyone noticing and held on to Zhou Xian's large palm. Just as she touched Zhou Xian's hand, Zhou Xian had already planned this beforehand as he held her wrist in reverse. Yiqing Luo struggled and his grip tightened. Just as Yiqing Luo flew into a rage out of humiliation, putting down the teacup and was about to add her other hand into the battlefield. Zhou Xian timely brought the topic back to business. "Biyuan, the glower flame fan is here. Take a look and see how confident you are." Saying that, he pushed the glower flame fan, which was broken into 2 pieces, towards Tang Beiyuan. Yiqing Luo's resistance stopped. At this moment she had no mood to continue messing around with Zhou Xian. Chapter 1265. Tang Beiyuan fiddled with the broken glowing fan. She glanced at the gap and rolled her eyes. Dizun, are you questioning my skills? Zhou Xian glanced at the young lady beside him. Tang Beiyuan nodded her head as her fingers caressed the glower flame fan and smiled at Yiqing Luo. Mistress, I have 100% confidence. 100%. Which meant 100% of the glower flame fan could be restored. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as she looked at Zhou Xian in delight. The glower flame fan can be restored. It can be restored. Luckily, the glower flame fan was a growing attribute. There was still room for redemption. His heart, which had been hanging in the air, slowly sank into the bottom of his heart. Her little hand clenched the big palm on her thigh. I'm ready to extract the heart, bone and blood any time. Zhou Xian's fingers caressed her palm as he said warmly, you must be tired from today's competition and exhausted too much energy. Forcefully extracting the heart, bone and blood will affect your body. Extract the heart, bone and blood, preferably in the wee hours of the morning, the second bell. Tang Beiyuan continued. Wee hours? Yiqing Luo looked at Zhou Xian. Can we do it tonight? Before that, if your body can meet the requirements of extracting the heart, bone and blood, yes. Zhou Xian didn't object. Knowing that the glower flame fan could be restored, and with 100% confidence, Yiqing Luo didn't insist any further. Today's competition was too dangerous and she was indeed tired. After the meal, Tang Beiyuan stayed in the restaurant. As for Zhou Xian and Yiqing Luo, they returned to the dormitory. Yiqing Luo needed a good rest. After the inter-class competition there were 2 days of free time. It was said that because of the inter-class competition, the students had been tense for a long time and used profound energy on a large scale, so it gave the students time to relax. In fact, these 2 days, it was to let the students report their results back to their elders. Or stay at the West Square and get to know the forces from all over the world. If he was lucky, he would be able to decide which faction he would belong to after he graduated from the academy in the next 2 days. The 2 of them had just arrived at the entrance of the mansion when they saw a group of students dressed in class uniforms surrounding the entrance tightly. Those students were mostly youngsters. But when he looked inside, he saw many girls who were talking at once and laughing joyfully. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 50 to 60 people. Towards this kind of excitement, Yiqing Luo had always had no interest, especially now that her mind was preoccupied with repairing the glowing flame fan. But when she passed by the entrance, Yiqing Luo obviously heard those ladies mentioning her name. Not only that, there were also Supreme Mo's words. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted as her slender brows creased slightly as she looked at those students who were surrounding her. Just as she was about to walk over, her body was forcefully pulled towards the mansion by Zhou Xian. Don't bother about unimportant people. The most important thing now is for you to return to your room and have a good rest. Yiqing Luo staggered a few steps forward as she looked at Zhou Xian in puzzlement. However, she found that his expression was a little ugly, as if he was trying to hold back some emotions. His eagerness to pull her away did not seem to be just to let her rest earlier. Instead, what were those students talking about when they were gathered together? Yiqing Luo turned her head and swept a glance in the direction of the 50 to 60 students. Although she had doubts in her heart, but she tactfully didn't ask too much. Suddenly, a melodious laughter was heard from behind. Brother Supremo, you're finally back. Chapter 1266. A jade-green figure forcefully knocked Yiqing Luo away. Yiqing Luo didn't pay attention and was knocked back a few steps. She looked up and saw Feng Ling holding Zhou Xian's arm tightly. Brother Supremo, Xiaoling has waited for a long time, you're finally back. Yiqing Luo steadied herself and a trace of coldness surfaced in her eyes. How did Feng Ling know that Zhou Xian was Supremo? Why was Feng Ling here? Xiaoling let go. Zhou Xian's expression sank as his cold eyes swept past the woman who was holding his arm. The disgust in his eyes was obvious. Feng Ling pursed her red lips. It wasn't that she didn't see the disgust in Zhou Xian's eyes, but she still wasn't willing to let go of him. No matter how much Zhou Xian hated her, Zhou Xian couldn't reject her completely. As long as her grandma was around, she could do whatever she wanted without any scruples. Feng Ling restrained the surging emotions in her heart and hugged Demo Xian's arm tighter. She practically buried Demo Xian's arm right into that proud ravine on her chest. Brother Supremo, don't chase Xiaoling away. Xiaoling will be obedient and won't disturb you. Feng Ling softened her tone and begged for mercy. Shaking Demo Xian's arm, it brushed past her proud place. Demo Xian's expression was overcast and the fingers on his arm were clenched into a fist. His voice was cold and filled with warning. Let go. Feng Ling was so frightened by the coldness in his eyes that her whole body trembled, and her heart beat in fear. But she still didn't let go of Demo Xian's arm. She licked her red lips which were dry from nervousness and simply buried her entire body into Demo Xian's embrace. Just as Feng Ling was about to bury herself in Demo Xian's arms, her arm suddenly felt a tingling pain. Immediately after, his body felt light as he was fiercely flung away by a strong force. Ah! Feng Ling fell heavily on the ground and let out a scream. Pain. The intense pain spread from her buttocks. Her whole body felt like her bones were broken and the pain was indescribable. The pain on her body couldn't compare to the pain in her heart. Feng Ling's eyes were red and her delicate face was pale. He actually pushed her away. Furthermore, he had pushed her away in such a rough manner. Did Brother D hate her that much? Was he so disgusted that he felt annoyed just by looking at her? Little Ling, are you all right? Teacher Imo, she's your fiancée after all. How could you treat her like this? Esteemed Teacher Imo, you are our teacher. You should set a good example. By treating your fiancée like this, are you teaching us how to treat our fiancés in the future? The students who were originally surrounding Feng Ling immediately went forward and helped Feng Ling up while defending her. There were a few students who stared furiously at the expressionless Yiqing Luo who was standing by the side. Yiqing Luo noticed it. The students looked at her as if they were looking at a vixen. Ah, fiancée? Even using her toes, Yiqing Luo could imagine what Feng Ling and these students were discussing about earlier. It was none other than, Feng Ling was Supreme Mo's fiancée. As for Supreme Mo, because of her, a proud student, he treated Feng Ling, his fiancée, coldly. Hence, Feng Ling came here to call back her fiancée's love for herself and so on. Even if it wasn't what Yiqing Luo had imagined, but the content was almost the same. Yiqing Luo only had 2 words to express her current feelings. Chapter 1267. Fiancé. Demo Xian squinted his peach blossom eyes as he repeated the 3 words softly. Feng Ling, who stood up with the help of the students, looked at him anxiously. She bit her red lips lightly, looking as though she wanted to say something but stopped. Demo Xian sneered as his thin lips twitched as he looked at Feng Ling and repeated the words again. Fianda Mo, brother Supreme Mo. Feng Ling sobbed softly as her pair of beautiful eyes and eyelashes were already wet with tears. That pitiful and weak look made one feel pity for her. Don't be afraid, little Ling. Even if he's the elder of the headquarters, if he's so fickle and doesn't acknowledge his fiancée, then we'll report this matter to the headquarters. The one who stood out to speak was a female student from High Profound Class 2. High Profound Class 2 had now become a joke. Under Lu Shuelan's intentional embellishment, all the students were certain that this time they had lost all their face and were going to be demoted was all because of Yiqing Luo's sinister and cunning. The female student pulled Feng Ling behind her and pointed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Master Supremo, touch your own conscience and say, do you treat her as your student or as a woman? With someone taking the lead to speak, the other female students' emotions were also infected. That's right, Master Supremo. You already have a fiancé, so you shouldn't be so ambiguous with female students. What's more, student Yiqing Luo and the Overlord already have that kind of improper relationship. Student Yiqing Luo, don't you feel guilty for ruining their fiancé relationship? The female students were filled with righteous indignation. There were some female students who could empathize with her and felt that a woman's fate was really miserable as they directly walked up to Yiqing Luo, pointing at her and scolding Vixen. For a moment, the entire entrance of the dormitory was bustling with noise. Demo Xian's frosty eyes were as sharp as a blade. He lifted his feet and was about to walk towards Yiqing Luo when he was stopped by a gaze from Yiqing Luo. His footsteps paused slightly, and when his gaze met Yiqing Luo, it eased up slightly. Yiqing Luo looked at the 2 female students and raised her brows with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Are you done? The profound energy which was released invisibly made the two female students feel pressured. They trembled and took a few steps back, not daring to speak again. Since you're done then, listen to me. Yiqing Luo took a step forward slowly. The two female students retreated in fear. One of them felt her legs wobbling, and when Yiqing Luo got closer, she collapsed onto the ground as she grabbed onto another female student's trousers tightly. The female student raised her leg in fear and kicked the student who had fallen to the ground away. She hurriedly rushed towards the crowd. Yiqing Luo stood firmly next to that female student as she bent down and looked down at her. Last night at the entrance of Gentle Village, I saw you dressed up gorgeously with a man. Her voice paused, her thin eyebrows slightly raised, and the corners of her mouth carried a teasing smile. The female student's face instantly turned pale. Ignoring her fear, she shouted angrily, "You're slandering me. I was with my classmates at the mansion last night. How could I go to a place like the Village of Tenderness?" The Land of Tenderness was the green wooden pavilion of the West Billow Square. An unmarried woman in a land of gentleness. If this matter were to be spread out, her reputation would be completely ruined. The female student's explanation didn't gain the trust of the surrounding people. The students were all pointing fingers at her. Chapter 1268. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped as she looked at that hand which was clutching her tightly. She didn't struggle free but only raised her eyes as she met that female student's gaze with a smile which didn't look like a smile. "Then which eye of yours saw me spoiling their fiancé relationship? What rights do you have to spout nonsense and ruin my reputation?" The female student's hysterical roar came to an abrupt stop. The sounds of discussion in the surroundings also stopped abruptly. Yiqing Luo raised her hand as her slender fingers held onto that hand which was on her lapel. One finger, she pried her apart. Anyone can say such slanderous words and anyone can say it. You just treat it as something which you say casually, but have you ever thought about the serious consequences it will cause to others? Yiqing Luo's voice was very soft, but it carried an irresistible charm. The invisible pressure which was released made everyone's gazes unknowingly revolved around her. Easily listening to someone's words, "I don't know if I should laugh at your naivety or at your stupidity." Yiqing Luo shook off the female student's hand as she looked at her condescendingly. "How long have you known Feng Ling for? Just act coquettishly, give in and obediently become her tool." The female student's expression changed. All the students' gazes instantly turned towards Feng Ling. The female student who was originally blocking in front of Feng Ling also slowly shifted her body as she turned her head towards Feng Ling, her eyes filled with suspicion. That's right. How long had they known Feng Ling for? Just based on a few words from Feng Ling, they had already scolded Master Mo? Those few students who had voiced out earlier felt a chill down their spines as they broke out in cold sweat. The gazes which they shot towards Feng Ling became increasingly unfriendly. I didn't. What I said is all true. She did it on purpose." Feng Ling panicked as she stuttered to explain. She had not expected Yiqing Luo to be so quick-witted. Just a few words and she had made those students who were on her side, who were filled with righteous indignation to stand up for her, instantly betray. "You." Yiqing Luo suddenly pointed towards that female student from High Profound Class 2. The female student's body stiffened as she didn't even dare to breathe loudly. "You said that I have an improper relationship with the Overlord." Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. The smile on her lips was elegant, like a dream or fantasy. However, that pair of charming eyes, which were suffused with rippling light, was so cold that it caused one's entire body to shiver. "Let me make a correction. The Overlord and I are in a serious relationship. Don't use the word improper on us." All the students sucked in a breath of cold air. Was she openly admitting that she had a close relationship with His Majesty, the Overlord? Didn't they say that they were master and disciple? Could it be that they had advanced from master and disciple to that kind of relationship? But Yiqing Luo didn't give them any time to digest. Instead he walked straight to wind chimes. His steps were light and slow, but he carried a strong and intimidating aura. Windling was so frightened that she retreated. She instinctively wanted to seek help from the people around her. However, the students who were comforting her gently and standing beside her just a moment ago didn't seem to see her pleading eyes. Yiqing Luo smiled. Her smile was extremely joyous. Those who can be easily persuaded by you can also be easily persuaded by others. She moved closer to Feng Ling's ear and whispered. The human heart was like this. Listening to the wind was the wind, listening to the rain was the rain. But she didn't know how to personally verify whether it was the wind or the rain. Looking at Windling's pale little face, she looked as though she had suffered a huge blow and was extremely frail. Her smile became even more enchanting and radiant as her vision slowly turned towards the man who was looking at her silently with a doting gaze. Chapter 1269. Hearing Yi Qingluo's question, Feng Ling's petite body shuddered. Her gaze was immediately glued to Zhou Xian's body. A pair of reddened eyes and her wet eyelashes fluttered incessantly. Just a moment later, the bean-sized tears rolled down from the corner of her eyes. Her pitiful look was obviously begging Zhou Xian not to expose her in front of everyone. Feng Ling was very clear. Under Yi Qingluo's conscious guidance, these students had developed an extreme distrust towards her. If Zhou Xian denied that she was his fiancée, that also meant that the story she had fabricated earlier was indeed false. Which meant that she was indeed like what Yi Qingluo said, making use of everyone's sympathy, using everyone as a tool. How indignant those students were to stand up for her just now. After knowing the truth, how indignant they would be, accusing her of using and lying. These students. They would peel off her skin. Just imagining the consequences in her mind, Feng Ling's body couldn't stop trembling. Zhou Xian didn't speak for a long time. Her mood was getting more and more uneasy. Finally, Feng Ling couldn't hold it in any longer and directly rushed towards Zhou Xian's direction. Brother Mo Supreme quickly answered them. Didn't you promise Grandma that you will do your best to protect little Ling? Feng Ling stretched out her hand trying to hug Zhou Xian's arm. In his words he deliberately emphasized the word, Grandma. But the progress and Feng Ling's thoughts were completely in the opposite direction. Her hand had yet to touch Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian dodged sideways. Feng Ling's hand froze in mid-air, looked at him incredulously. That face which made her crazy had no emotions at all. That pair of eyes which made her intoxicated, was so cold as if it was quenched with ice. He stood there without any adornment in his master's robe, swaying in the wind, like a banished immortal. His rosy thin lips, bit by bit, curled into an arc which made her sink in. Feng Ling was so frightened that her delicate body trembled, almost crying out loud. From Zhou Xian's action of avoiding her, Feng Ling had already guessed his choice. She is not my fiancée. Zhou Xian's voice was calm, his expression indifferent. His words were like needles stabbing into wind chimes' eardrums. Her head was throbbing and she could clearly hear something breaking in her chest. Brother Supreme. Feng Ling miserably called out Zhou Xian's name. She could not believe that even if she brought out her grandmother, the man she loved still mercilessly exposed her. Through the corner of her eyes, Feng Ling glanced at the girl who was standing on the other side and looking at her provocatively. His cheeks felt like they were on fire. A sense of humiliation arose spontaneously. The person her brother D respected the most was her grandmother. But now, for the sake of one woman and another woman, her big brother D was even willing to disregard his own grandmother. What was so good about Yi Qingluo? What was good about Yi Qingluo? Why did her brother D treat her in this way because of Yi Qingluo? The more Feng Ling thought about it, the more unbalanced she felt. His hatred towards Yi Qingluo intensified. Suddenly, a quiet and low voice sounded in his ears. His voice was so soft that only the two of them could hear him. Little Ling, don't waste all the kindness that your grandmother had painstakingly accumulated for you. You know very well that this lord's patience is not good. She is my reverse scale. Just 3 simple sentences, but it seemed as if there were turbulent waves surging in Feng Ling's heart. He was warning her? He wanted to tell her. Chapter 1270. This knowledge made Feng Ling's body sway slightly. Her entire body was weak and she almost fell onto the ground. A bone-piercing chill extended from her feet to her heart. Her entire body seemed to be wrapped in ice. Just because she had tarnished Yi Qingluo's reputation. So, Zhou Xian also wanted to tarnish her reputation? Because he was worried that Yi Qingluo would misunderstand. So, Zhou Xian avoided her from getting close to him? Just to please Yi Qingluo. So, Zhou Xian could ignore her grandmother's kindness? Heh. He. Windling chuckled softly. The pain of her heart tearing made her wish that she was dead. Miss Feng, Senior Master Imo, is an elder of the headquarters. I'm very curious who sent you to purposely defame Senior Master Imo. A clear voice sounded from the side. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she gazed at Feng Ling, or perhaps. You're purely admiring Master Imo, so you're delusional that you're his fiancé? So you intentionally instigated the students, attempting to force Master Imo to accept your disrespectful delusions for your sake? Yiqing Luo's words instantly made those students who were originally infuriated by Feng Ling burst out laughing. Pairs of disdainful eyes fell on Feng Ling. Looking at Feng Ling was like looking at a nauseating love-struck fool. Feng Ling had grown up in the imperial palace since young. Because of her grandmother, she had always been the center of attention since young, as everyone revolved around her. Since when had she suffered such humiliation? Her face turned pale as tears uncontrollably flowed out. Her teary eyes stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. She turned around and covered her face as she sobbed softly and walked far away. A few female students chased after her as they scolded and swore that the next time they saw Feng Ling, they would definitely catch her and give her a good beating. As for the other male students, when they saw Feng Ling's pitiful crying look as she left, they couldn't bear to chase after her. For a moment, all the students were discussing about what happened earlier. Yiqing Luo guessed. Probably in less than a joss-stick's time, the entire West Lawn Public Square would probably know about a lady named Feng Ling, shamelessly deceiving everyone, delusional that she was Master Imo Xian's fiancé. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she shot a glance at Imo Xian and snorted lightly. Without looking back, he walked into the dormitory and returned to his room. Although she appeared to be so arrogant on the surface, in actual fact, Imo Xian's actions of avoiding Feng Ling's touch and publicly denying Feng Ling's lies had completely pleased her. Now Winchim had become a joke in West Billow Square. Yiqing Luo expressed that her mood had already bloomed. Although it wasn't clear what was the relationship between Imo Xian and the Imperial Palace's grandma. It was unclear what kind of feelings were involved between Imo Xian and Grandma Earth Palace. But the only thing that Yiqing Luo could confirm was that Imo Xian truly respected the Imperial Palace's granny. Otherwise, Feng Ling would not have used her grandmother to threaten Imo Xian time and time again. For her, Imo Xian rejected Feng Ling. She was already very satisfied. Yiqing Luo quickly returned to her room, waiting for Imo Xian to sneak into her room to look for her. Imo Xian indeed intended to chase after them. But before he could even lift his leg, those students who chased after Feng Ling had already turned back and surrounded him. The students apologized for listening to Feng Ling's words earlier, and reprimanding Master Imo Xian. Deeply afraid that Master Imo Xian would blame them. Pulling and pulling, they refused to let Imo Xian leave no matter what. With Imo Xian's current status, it wasn't convenient for him to fly into a rage and chase these students away. The crowd surged and one by one black heads swayed in front of his eyes. Imo Xian could only look on helplessly as Yiqing Luo's figure slowly disappeared. Imo Xian expressed. Chapter 1271. Three Springs City, the World Mercenary Group's old residence. The students of the Devil class were sent back to the old mansion by 10 horse carriages. They were dispersed and escorted back by the Emperor Palace's disciples. One by one the carriages entered the old mansion. Zhao Bo and the others stepped forward to carry the youths off the carriages. All of them sucked in a breath of cold air. The youths of Devil class laid in the horse carriage, completely unable to move. The faces of the youths were pale, and their brows were tightly knitted together in pain. There were no scars on their bodies, but they seemed to be in extreme pain from head to toe, as if they were on the verge of death. Zhao Bo immediately ordered his men to gently lift the youths off the carriage and send them to their rooms. For a time the atmosphere in the old mansion was extremely heavy. No one spoke. Only the pained cries of the youths could be heard faintly drifting in the air. The last carriage entered the old house. The first to open the curtains was Qiao Jin, who was dressed in a red uniform and had his brows furrowed. He carried the pale-faced Yan Xiaoyi in his arms and gently leapt off the carriage. Executive Commander. When Zhao Bo saw Qiao Jin, he asked in a low voice with an extremely ugly expression, "What's going on?" He knew that Yiqing Luo and the others were going to take part in the Academy's inter-class competition. The competition in the Academy had been witnessed by the various elders and teachers of the Academy. No matter how fierce the battle was, it was impossible for him to be injured to this extent, right? Furthermore, based on the strength of the other students in the Heavenly Academy, how could they hurt this bunch of youngsters? Zhao Bo was full of doubts. Qiao Jin did not reply. His face was ashen as he stared fixedly at the woman in his arms, as if he could no longer see anyone or anything in the outside world. "Where's Holy Pirate?" Long Yunzhan's cold voice came from behind him. Zhao Bo halted his steps and bowed respectfully. "Guild leader." Long Yunzhan coldly nodded. "They are badly hurt. Let's ask Holy Pirate to come." Zhao Bo responded and immediately turned in the direction of Holy Pirate's courtyard. Long Yunzhan looked at the back view of Qiao Jin carrying Yan Xiaoyi as they left. He wanted to catch up and wait for God Pirate's arrival. Just as he was about to lift his leg, Long Yunzhan's ears twitched. A hint of vigilance flashed across his indifferent eyes. Footsteps were approaching. Moreover, there were more than 20 of them. He frowned and turned around. When he saw the person behind him, the seriousness on his face eased a little. "Why are you here?" It was none other than Tao Tao. Behind Peach, there were more than 20 doctors dressed in doctor uniforms with medical boxes on their waists. As far as the eye could see, the youngest doctor was over 50 years old. The doctors were panting heavily and their foreheads were dripping with sweat. When they arrived at the old house, they wiped the cold sweat off their foreheads and looked around. "Captain Peach Blossom, where are the injured?" Peach also ran all the way here. Her delicate face was covered with a thin layer of sweat. She looked up at Long Yunzhan and panted, "Leader Long, where are the injured people? I specially asked Peach Blossom 3000 to invite the famous doctors near Three Springs City over. Thank you for your hard work." He was about to ask Holy Pirate to find the famous doctor from Three Springs City, but Peach had already made the arrangements. "Thank you." Long Yunzhan curled his lips slightly, his azure blue eyes revealing sincerity. Peach looked at the handsome face in front of her, and a trace of amazement flashed in her eyes. It was the first time she had seen Long Yunzhan smile. All along, Long Yunzhan had been expressionless and emotionless. It was a little surprising. Chapter 1272. He was still dressed like a nouveau riche. Against the sunlight, his entire body shone with a dazzling golden light. In an instant, God Thief was already standing in front of Long Yunzhan as he held onto Long Yunzhan's shoulder. "Qing Luo, that last didn't come back with you? Don't tell me. You were beaten up badly in an inter-class competition?" "We won the competition." He interrupted Holy Pirate's wild thoughts. "Take these doctors and check their pulses. We can talk about the rest later." Long Yunzhan coldly replied. After saying that, he led the 20 or so doctors to the youngsters' rooms. The old house, which had been silent for a long time, gradually became extremely lively. The doctor came and went. Zhao Bo and the others listened to the doctor's instructions and ran back and forth to help. Yan Xiaoyi's room. Qiao Jin sat by the bed and used a towel to wipe the cold sweat off Yan Xiaoyi's forehead. That delicate little face was now as pale as a sheet of paper. Her usually fiery red lips were now devoid of any color. His breathing was extremely heavy and from time to time he would let out soft moans of pain. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted together as if she was enduring the intense pain. Qiao Jin's hand, which was wiping her cold sweat, couldn't stop trembling. Seeing Yan Xiaoyi in such pain, his heart ached even more. He couldn't wait to take her place and bear the pain. Qiao Jin was infinitely vexed. Why wasn't he by Yan Xiaoyi's side when they were at the back mountain? If he had accompanied Yan Xiaoyi wouldn't have suffered such serious injuries and wouldn't have needed to consume the Imperial Palace's pills and wouldn't have to suffer such pain. His slender fingers curled up the towel in his hand one by one. At this moment, the strong and determined man's eyes reddened. Qiao Jin put the towel into the basin and gently held her little hand. Her delicate hand was so small, yet his large palm could completely wrap around her small hand. Qiao Jin held her hand tightly, lifted it gently and pressed it against his cheek. Her hands were bone-chilling just like frost. It was so cold that his body trembled slightly. His heart was aching and filled with guilt. "Xiaoyi." Qiao Jin murmured softly, calling Yan Xiaoyi's name affectionately. Even he himself did not notice it. The tenderness in his words could almost be squeezed out of water. His gaze was tender and tender, his expression gentle. "Xiaoyi, After going through this, I'm increasingly certain of your position in my heart. When you wake up, when you get better, I will definitely tell you everything in my heart. A pained groan interrupted Qiao Jin's murmurs. Qiao Jin, who had been confessing tenderly, paused. Their previous high morale instantly vanished without a trace. The eyelashes of the woman lying on the bed trembled as she twisted her body in pain. His breathing became heavier and heavier, as if he was suffering from indescribable pain. Qiao Jin held her hand tightly and pressed it against his face. He covered her eyes with his other hand. Xiaoyi, I'm here. I'm here. In his palm he could clearly feel the movement of his eyelashes. Qiao Jin's heart trembled and he immediately withdrew his hand. Sure enough, he saw a pair of beautiful eyes that were covered with a layer of haziness. She blinked her eyes in a daze, her face scrunched up in pain. Until Yan Xiaoyi's eyes completely opened, and a pair of hazily beautiful eyes looked towards him. Qiao Jin's entire body stiffened. He was still holding Yan Xiaoyi's hand and placing it against his cheek. Chapter 1273. Yan Xiaoyi's gaze was fixated on Qiao Jin. She didn't speak. He became increasingly nervous. After a while, Qiao Jin stood up in a panic. I just felt that your hand was very cold, so, he stuttered as he explained, his face full of nervousness. He had just vowed that as long as Yan Xiaoyi woke up, he would tell her about his feelings. At this moment, those words had long been forgotten because of his nervousness when facing Yan Xiaoyi. His stuttering explanation was stopped when Yan Xiaoyi slowly sat up. Qiao Jin pressed Yan Xiaoyi down in a panic. You can't move around recklessly now. Before the doctor comes, lie down and rest. As soon as he finished speaking, Yan Xiaoyi's body actually fell towards him softly. Then, without warning, she stretched out her hands and wrapped them around his firm waist. That pale little face was pressed against his abdomen. Qiao Jin could clearly feel Yan Xiaoyi's icy cold face through the thin layer of clothing. Qiao Jin. Yan Xiaoyi's pale thin lips opened slightly as she softly called out his name. Because of this action, the wounds on his body were affected, causing a tearing pain. Yan Xiaoyi's eyes reddened, her little hands wrapped even tighter as her voice revealed a trace of grievance. Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin was stunned. She wasn't angry at him for holding her hand without permission? And she even took the initiative to wrap her arms around his waist? Qiao Jin's heart beat wildly, his entire body inexplicably hot. He looked at the young girl who was hugging him, his body stiff, his arms trembling as he reached towards her. He wanted to wrap his arms around Yan Xiaoyi. But he was afraid of being rejected by Yan Xiaoyi. Don't tell me, you hate me that much? Yan Xiaoyi suddenly raised her head, her misty eyes looking at him. Her beautiful eyes were slightly red, revealing a thin layer of mist. Qiao Jin's heart stopped. He subconsciously reached out to hold her face, gently caressing her eyes. How could I hate you, Xiaoyi? How could I hate you? I can't wait to like you. How could I hate you? Don't cry. If you cry, my heart will ache. Qiao Jin silently added another sentence in his heart. His slender fingers gently caressed Yan Xiaoyi's eyes. Yan Xiaoyi's little hands tightened around his waist, seemingly enjoying Qiao Jin's touch. She slowly closed her eyes and the pain between her brows eased a little. He waited for a long time, but he didn't feel the sensation he was expecting. Yan Xiaoyi opened her eyes in confusion. She saw Qiao Jin staring at her, not knowing what he was thinking. Yan Xiaoyi blinked her eyes in a daze, her soft body lying on top of his. The woman's soft and delicate body, especially the softness in front of her chest, was pressed tightly against his chest. Qiao Jin was hot-blooded, and the one in his arms was the woman he loved. His body tensed up and he reached out to pry Yan Xiaoyi's hand away. Ugh, it hurts. Yan Xiaoyi refused to let go. She didn't know why, but every time her body moved she would feel a dull pain. It was as if his internal organs had been torn apart. Why could he still feel such clear pain in his dream? However, she still endured the pain and only wanted to hug Qiao Jin tightly. This dream belonged to her alone. Only in her dreams did this man belong to her alone. Only in her dreams could she do whatever she wanted to do to him without any qualms. She wasn't willing to wake up, nor was she willing to let go of him in her dreams. This was her dream. So, she could do anything. As long as she could keep him. Chapter 1274. Hearing Yan Xiaoyi cry out in pain, Qiao Jin immediately panicked. How would he dare to struggle again? Looking at Yan Xiaoyi with a worried gaze, Qiao Jin asked helplessly, "Where does it hurt? Where does it hurt? Bear with it, the doctor will be here soon. I'll rush the doctor over to take a look at you, don't cry." Just as he was about to turn and leave, the two hands around his waist wrapped around him tightly, unwilling to let go. Xiaoyi. Qiao Jin didn't dare to move too much, worried that it would affect Yan Xiaoyi's wound. Before he could speak, Yan Xiaoyi held his hand. She pulled his large palm and placed it on her chest. "It hurts here, it hurts." "Qiao Jin, what do I do? I'm about to die from the pain." Qiao Jin's mind went blank. It was as if a ball of white light exploded in his mind. What did his hand touch? It was as soft as cotton. It was so soft that he subconsciously wanted to move his fingers. And once he moved, he heard a soft moan. It was alluring. His consciousness suddenly came back to his senses. His eyes fixed on Yan Xiaoyi's body. His hand was still on Yan Xiaoyi's chest. His fingers were bent. It was obvious that he really rubbed. Xiaoyi, sorry." Qiao Jin's face instantly flushed red. He wanted to retract his hand, but Yan Xiaoyi seemed to know what he wanted to do and stopped him in advance. With this pull and pull, the feeling in his palm became increasingly clear. Qiao Jin's body was extremely tense, the emotions in his eyes constantly attacking his lower abdomen. His eyes were already filled with a trace of desire. It can't be like this. Xiaoyi's injury was so serious. How could he have such thoughts towards Xiaoyi at this time? Qiao Jin constantly convinced himself. His arms slightly exerted force, wanting to maintain a distance from Yan Xiaoyi. But Yan Xiaoyi was very strong. Under the pull, Yan Xiaoyi's body was already weak. Her body fell forward, about to fall off the bed. Qiao Jin caught Yan Xiaoyi in time. The two of them fell to the ground. Qiao Jin acted as a cushion so Yan Xiaoyi didn't fall. But the position of the two was a little too ambiguous. Qiao Jin also realized this and shifted his gaze away unnaturally. "Xiaoyi, can you move?" Yan Xiaoyi leaned against his chest. Her slightly red face was no longer as cold as before. She replied softly, her little hands subconsciously grabbing onto his shirt. "Get up first." Qiao Jin's tensed body had already reached its limit. The most torturous thing in the world. Nothing was better than being intimate with the woman he loved, but he couldn't and didn't dare to do anything. Yan Xiaoyi suddenly raised her eyes and looked deeply at Qiao Jin. Her hands changed from gripping his clothes to gently caressing it. His fingers were like elves moving through a layer of clothing. A trace of a smile blossomed on her lips. "Didn't you forcefully press me against the table the last time? Forcefully kissed me? You still want to take off my clothes?" Qiao Jin's body stiffened and his breathing became heavy. "What, you don't have the guts now?" Yan Xiaoyi suddenly bent down and pressed her fingers on Qiao Jin's lips. "Only you are allowed to forcefully push me, but I'm not allowed to forcefully push you?" Just as her voice fell, her lips had already forcefully pressed on his. Forcefully biting and caressing. She imitated how he had kissed her the last time and returned the kiss to Qiao Jin without changing anything. "Xiaoyi." Qiao Jin's voice was already hoarse. There was a voice in his head that kept shouting for him to press down this unbridled woman on top of him. Somewhere in his body, it kept clamoring for action. But he maintained his rationality. "Calm down. Calm down. Xiaoyi's actions must be because the injuries on her body had worsened, causing her to lose consciousness. He couldn't take advantage of her. But this thought just flashed past his mind. Chapter 1275. Yan Xiaoyi's slender and fair little hands were as soft as silk. They bounced on Qiao Jin's chest. Slowly it slid into his clothes. Her delicate skin came into contact with him without any resistance. Qiao Jin's tense nerves broke down at this moment. His eyes, which were filled with yearning, were bloodshot, burning with the flames of lust. "Xiaoyi." His hoarse voice revealed an irrepressible lust. Qiao Jin reached out and hugged the girl who was lying on him. "You asked for it." He was a man. He was young and full of vigor. How could he control himself under the seduction of the girl he loved? If he could control himself, then he wasn't a man. Qiao Jin's fierce and unreasonable look didn't make Yan Xiaoyi afraid at all. Instead, she giggled out loud. Because of her discomfort, her frowning brows relaxed at this moment. "If you dare to stop, then you aren't a man." Yan Xiaoyi grabbed his clothes tightly and pulled hard. After pulling Qiao Jin down, she kissed his thin lips fiercely. In this dream she wanted to truly feel Qiao Jin's taste, Qiao Jin's temperature, Qiao Jin's everything. In this dream Qiao Jin belonged to her alone. Yan Xiaoyi's kiss became more and more lingering. Qiao Jin turned from guest to host, biting Yan Xiaoyi's lips. The intense kiss raised the temperature of the whole room. The two of them were already entangled. At this moment, "Brat, is Xiaoyi okay? I've brought the ghost doctor over. Let's take a look at Xiaoyi and see what's going on." The door was pushed open rudely. God Thief tugged on the ghost doctor's sleeve and swaggered in. Peach, Long Yunzhan and Zhao Bo followed behind. Immediately there was a moment of silence. The few of them looked at everything that was happening in the room in shock, smelling the extremely ambiguous smell in the air. Both parties froze. Qiao Jin was originally full of lust. Now that he was shocked and being watched, he was so scared that he went soft. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Damn, would he have a shadow in his heart in the future? Would he be able to get better in the future? Damn. He wouldn't be impotent, right? Cough, cough, cough. Holy Pirate, who was the first to react, blushed. He immediately dragged the ghost doctor away. When Long Yunzhan, Zhao Bo and the others came to their senses, they reached out to cover Peach's eyes and forcibly took her away. The door slammed shut again with a bang. Outside the door, the ghost doctor's voice could be heard. "If you don't want Miss Yan's injuries to worsen, you'd better stop now. Otherwise, even I, the ghost doctor, will be powerless. You're such an unromantic old man. The young couple is so loving inside and you have to say such things that spoil the mood." Holy Pirate spat a few times as if he was pulling the ghost doctor away. When Qiao Jin, who was in the room, heard the ghost doctor's words, all his feelings completely vanished into thin air. He stiffened his body and quickly got up. He discovered that the girl beneath him had unknowingly fallen unconscious again. Her little face turned even paler. His brows were tightly knitted as if he was in unbearable pain. His lips that were swollen and moist from kissing opened slightly, and he kept groaning in pain. Xiaoyi. Qiao Jin's heart suddenly felt a sharp pain and it twitched fiercely. Chapter 1276. While the ghost doctor was taking Yan Xiaoyi's pulse, Long Yunzhan succinctly recounted what had happened in West Lawn Square. After hearing that all the students in the devil class had been surrounded by the dark forces, which was why they were so heavily injured, the ghost doctor and God Pirate's eyes met, and a haze flashed across their eyes. He was already heavily injured to begin with, and he even consumed the spirit-returning pill specially made by the Imperial Palace. If it was an ordinary profound practitioner, once the effects of the spirit-returning pill were used up, he would either die or be crippled. Ghost Doctor's white brows creased as he impatiently flung Yan Xiaoyi's wrist away. "Luckily you've been nourished by last Qing Luo's medicinal pill, and your body's quality has far surpassed ordinary people, so you're able to withstand the backlash from the spirit-returning pill." The more he spoke, the more impatient his expression became. "You're just a bunch of kids who haven't even grown hair yet. Why do you have to provoke this kind of thing? Troublesome." If it wasn't for the fact that these youngsters had a close relationship with Yi Qing Luo, the ghost doctor really wasn't willing to waste her time refining medicine to treat these troublesome brats. "So it's the soul-restoring pill. No wonder I can't see any injuries on these kids, but they're all howling like pigs being slaughtered." Holy Pirate suddenly understood and looked at Ghost Doctor. This group of kids are like newborn calves that are not afraid of tigers. They even dared to take elixirs like the Return God pill. Most profound practitioners did not dare to experience the consequences of consuming the soul-returning pill. In the case of severe injuries after consuming the soul-returning pellet, the wounds on the profound practitioner's body would heal on their own. After the effects of the medicine dissipated, the wounds on the body would not reappear. However, the wound still had an effect on the body. Not only did profound practitioners have to endure pain that was 100 times more painful than when they were heavily injured, they also had to. He couldn't find the exact location of the wound on his body or what kind of injury it was. But there was no way to save him. Ghost Doctor. Qiao Jin stood stiffly by the bedside, his gaze deeply fixed on Yan Xiaoyi, whose face was filled with pain. "Is there no other way?" The moment he opened his mouth, the ghost doctor glared at him maliciously. "You brat, you still dare to speak. You clearly knew that this girl's injuries were severe, yet you still did that kind of thing to her. If we hadn't come early, this girl's life would have been in your hands. How troublesome. All he did was create trouble for him. Qiao Jin was unable to refute and lowered his eyes in guilt. Right. Call that bunch of quacks over and first tell them how to find the location of the wound. The ghost doctor couldn't be bothered to say anything else. She just wanted to resolve this troublesome matter as soon as possible. In his heart he was already thinking that when Yiqing Luo returned he would definitely make her repay the kindness. Locking Yiqing Luo in the secret alchemy room for 10 days to half a month to help him refine medicinal pills. Quack doctor? Zhao Bo swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Those doctors were the most prestigious doctors in and outside of Three Springs City, and within a radius of hundreds of miles. In the mouth of the ghost doctor, all of them had become quacks? Long Yunzhan's cold gaze swept past Zhao Bo. Zhao Bo shuddered and reacted. I'll call them over now. West Lawn Square, dormitory. Night approached the hour of Yin. Yiqing Luo's eyes were shut as she fell into dreamland. Even in her dreams her brows were still tightly knitted. It was as if he couldn't calm down. Suddenly, a well-defined finger gently touched her tightly knitted eyebrows. A strong arm wrapped around the sleeping girl. The purple robe fluttered under the dim candlelight. The fluorescent glow was harmonious. Xian, stop fooling around. The young lady pouted her pink lips as she raised her hand to push away the arm which was restraining her waist, turning over and continuing to sleep. In the next instant, a pair of warm lips had already sealed her lips. The elegant sandalwood scent, mixed with the scent of male hormones,